The Human Project was not the only one, parallel versions. We live in a strange time. We are surrounded by fakes, made-up sensations, and shocking discoveries that fall apart after the first click. And against this background, real facts, confirmed by science, often make people laugh. Because they sound too unbelievable. For example, a simple sentence like this: other human species once lived on planet Earth. Not races. Not nations. But other species. For many people, an inner voice appears immediately. Come on, that's science fiction. Someone just invented another story. But here comes the uncomfortable part. This is a fact that science accepted long ago. From DNA. From bones. Without myths or shamans. And the most interesting thing is this: they were not ape-like creatures with clubs, like in old cartoons. Some of them had brains larger than ours, larger than Homo sapiens. So let's talk about this calmly. Without cults. Without conspiracy theories. In the language of facts and honest assumptions. When did human become human? Let's start with a simple question. How long has a human, a real human, from a DNA point of view, existed? Today, the oldest confirmed Homo sapiens fossils are about 300,000 years old. Africa. And here is an important point. If a child from that time were born today, raised in our family, went to school, sat on a smartphone, and skipped classes, you would hardly tell them apart from an ordinary teenager. That is, it's us. Not pre-humans, but fully developed Homo sapiens. This is not a theory. This is DNA. But here's the surprise: we were not alone. And this is where things get really interesting. Other human species lived on this planet at the same time as us. Not before us. With us. Like different models of the same product released at the same time. Alongside Homo sapiens lived Neanderthals and others. They were not what school textbooks used to show them as. Let's start with the most famous ones. 1. Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis. Where they lived, Europe and Western Asia. When, about 400,000 to 40,000 years ago. They were strong, cold-adapted humans. At an average height of about 165 centimeters, they had barrel-shaped chests and arms like bodybuilders. They controlled fire, made tools, probably had language, and yes, romantic relationships with Homo sapiens. That's right, most people outside Africa carry up to about 2% Neanderthal DNA. They disappeared around 40,000 years ago. The exact reasons are unknown, maybe competition, maybe climate. But definitely not stupidity. They were not cave-dwelling brutes. That's a movie stereotype. Their brain volume was about 1,450 to 1,600 cubic centimeters, larger than that of modern Homo sapiens, around 1,350 cubic centimeters. Yes, their system unit was bigger. But don't panic, an elephant's brain can weigh up to 5 kilograms, and that doesn't make it a professor. Neanderthals were not dumb. They used fire, made complex tools, built shelters, cared for the sick, which means they had compassion. They made jewelry, toys for children, raised families, and most likely communicated using spoken language. 2. Denisovans. Now it gets even more interesting. Denisovans. What do we know about them? Almost nothing. 1 finger bone. 1 tooth. Siberia. But DNA revealed something important. They were a separate human species. And another surprise. People in Oceania and parts of Asia still carry Denisovan DNA. Which means they existed. They were intelligent. They disappeared. But they left traces in living people. Like a shadow from a light that was turned off long ago. 3. Homo floresiensis. Hobbits. without magic. And now, my favorite character: Homo floresiensis. They were found on the island of Flores. Height, about 1 meter. Small brain. So what? They hunted. They used fire. They made tools. It's like a small car with a truck engine. It looks strange, but it works. And they disappeared quite recently. About 50,000 years ago. Where are the missing links? People often ask. So where are all the missing links between apes and humans? The problem is simple. DNA doesn't survive for millions of years. Bones break. Time is a ruthless archivist. That's why there are many theories about transitional forms, and they often contradict each other, while solid facts are hard to find. But other human species are not assumptions. They are read directly from DNA. This is where imagination ends. Because this is a fact. Conclusion: humans are not the only final product. We are the result of selection. There were parallel versions. Intelligent. Complex. Sometimes stronger than us. We are not better. We are simply the ones who survived. Like in an old startup competition, where the winner is not the smartest one, but the one where everything came together. Time, climate, luck, and a little bit of audacity. So next time someone says, other human species are just legends, you can calmly answer, no. Humanity is simply a very big picture, and we can see only a small part of it. We know this for sure. There were Neanderthals, Denisovans, and the so-called hobbits. This is no longer up for debate. It's like the fact that you once had a kid's bicycle. You might not remember it, but the photos exist. But there is one more uncomfortable truth. In our DNA, there are traces of someone we still haven't found. Not a myth. Not a legend. Not secret underground people from YouTube. Just not yet dug up. It's important to lower the tension right away. We're not talking about another human species sitting somewhere under the Alps, drinking coffee and hiding from sapiens. No. It's more like finding a stranger's sock in your apartment. You know for sure someone was here. But where exactly, when, and what they looked like, that's the question. Scientists look at the DNA of modern humans and see strange fragments. They don't match us. They don't match Neanderthals. They don't match Denisovans. And then a simple thought appears. Wait, then who is this? These are called ghost populations. The name sounds creepy, but the meaning is very ordinary. Like a neighbor who moved out but left a drill behind. Here's an important point. If our ancestors could have children with these beings, they were not apes. They were not some transitional links between humans and primates. They were humans. Different ones. With their own faces. Their own lifestyles. But humans. It's like different models of the same car. One has air conditioning. Another doesn't. But all of them drive somewhere. Science doesn't know exactly why those species disappeared. And if someone says they do, they're either fantasizing or selling a book. What we do have are facts. They existed for a long time. They lived alongside sapiens. And then, they vanished. And there are logical theories. One of them has no wars. No genocides. No epic final battles. Just simple math. Different human species lived side by side for hundreds of thousands of years. There were moments when the climate changed, survival became harder, and there were very few of us left, just a few thousand individuals across the entire planet. For a species, that's almost like the lights went out. We survived. Barely. But we did. Now imagine another human species. There were fewer of them to begin with. Then cold glaciers, or, on the contrary, drought. And at some point, diversity becomes too small for the species to continue. This is a theory. I emphasize a theory. But it is logical. And it doesn't rely on the fantasy that we survived because we were smarter. There were simply more sapiens. We were spread more widely. Probably a bit more flexible. Not better. Just more numerous. We are not the only version of humanity nature ever tried. We are the one that remained. Not perfect. Just the one that made it to today. And the others remain only as a few bones. Fragments of DNA. And questions without answers. Thanks to DNA, we now see a wider picture. Humanity is not a monolith. It's an entire forest of experiments. And we are just one tree that managed to stay standing in the wind.